An exploratory study has identified a link between gut bacteria and post-traumatic stress disorders that could bring us closer to fathoming the mechanisms of this complex condition. Estimates for the United States suggest that 60% of men and 50% of women will experience at least one traumatic event during their lifetime. Now, a small portion of those who experience trauma develop post-traumatic stress disorder, or AKA PTSD, which is a serious psychiatric disease with a cluster of symptoms. And in the US alone, between 7 and 8% of the population will have PTSD at some time in their life. You guys are listening to the Digest This podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. Let's get right into this episode. Approximately 92% of Americans are nutrient deficient, and nearly 50% are deficient in vitamin B12 specifically, which can lead to issues like anemia, vascular disease, stroke, autoimmune conditions, fatigue, and even dementia. Vitamin B12 is the only vitamin that we cannot get from plants or sunlight. It is the only vitamin found in animal products, and the richest source of natural vitamin B12 on the planet is grass-fed beef liver. In fact, severe B12 deficiency used to be fatal until scientists figured out death could be prevented by feeding patients raw liver. Now, I'm not going to eat raw liver, and I'm sure you aren't either, but I am a huge fan of consuming meat organs. However, I know most have a difficult time with either the taste of them or simply just digesting them. But organ meats such as liver, heart, and kidneys are some of the most nutrient-dense foods in the world. I would hate for myself or anyone to go without them in their diet. That's why I personally opt for Paleo Valley's grass-fed organ complex. It's a blend of grass-fed liver, heart, and kidneys that's dehydrated and put into a capsule form to easily be consumed with any meal or glass of water. Just 3 ingredients and no fillers, no flow agents, and no additional ingredients are added. It's made with 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef organs, never given antibiotics, steroids, or hormones. It's also gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, dairy-free, non-GMO, and gently freeze-dried to preserve the nutrients, making them bioavailable for easy digestion and absorption. They're easy to swallow with no flavor or aftertaste. Each bottle is a 30-day supply, and there's no subscription required or needed. Buy just 1 bottle or 3. I am personally obsessed with these and can truly notice a difference. And not just me. The last time I shared about these in my Instagram stories, I had followers really saying how they started taking these as well, and they also felt just so much better, and it's been helping their anemia. So if you're not sure about them, Paleo Valley has a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. So if you aren't thrilled with your order, just let them know and they'll refund you without any questions asked. You really have nothing to lose and all the health to gain. Just go to paleovalley.com/digest for a special discount. Plus, if you order 3 bottles, you'll also get free shipping and handling. So again, go to paleovalley.com/digest to receive a discount and free shipping and handling when you order 3 bottles. All right, guys, if you haven't guessed it already, today's Bite of Knowledge, we are talking about the link between our gut bacteria and PTSD. Now, the immune system and inflammation in particularly, I want to address this for a second. Now, there's been previous studies that have pointed to several factors that might determine what makes people either susceptible or resilient to PTSD. These have highlighted genetic makeup and environmental factors such as living conditions and childhood experience. Others suggest that inadequate immune system control and inflammation may raise the risk of PTSD. Thankfully, scientists are becoming increasingly aware of the role that the trillions of microbes that live in and on the body play in our health and diseases that so many of us have. Many of them live in the gut where they help to digest food and fight off infections. Now, I feel like the more and more we dig into things, the more everything is related to the gut and our gut microbiome. Our gut bacteria also influences the biology and function of the brain through the production of hormones or neurotransmitters, which are molecules that alter immune function and toxins. Bacteria in the gut are also affected by emotional responses. Stress hormones can alter their growth and damage the lining of the gut, allowing both bacteria and their toxins to get into the bloodstream. This can lead to inflammation, which is known to contribute to psychiatric diseases. Studies have also found that levels of inflammation markers measured in people recently exposed to trauma can predict whether or not they will develop PTSD later. This is just fascinating to me, you guys. And of course, is just another reason why we should take care of our mental health as much as we can, because our mental health affects our digestion, and come to find out, it not only affects our digestion in the short term, but apparently in the long term as well. Now, I want to talk about there's some differences in 3 types of bacteria. So the researchers in these studies found that participants who had experienced trauma as children had lower levels of 2 of the 3 important gut bacteria important for regulating the immune system. Dr. Milan Muller, who headed up this study, explained that this is an interesting finding because it is already known that people who experience childhood trauma are at higher risk of developing PTSD later in life. She suggests that perhaps the altered levels of the bacteria occurred early in life in response to childhood trauma. Another interesting finding is that females may experience the symptoms of PTSD differently than males. Females are also 2 to 3 times more likely to develop PTSD in general. Now, while the symptoms of PTSD do not typically depend on a person's sex or gender, females may experience certain symptoms differently than males. Females may be more likely to do the following here, and that is avoid people, places, or objects that remind them of the event, be more easily startled, have feelings of depression or anxiety, and have difficulty feeling emotions or just feel numb to everything. Females may also be more likely than males to experience symptoms for longer before seeking diagnosis or treatment. On average, females wait about 4 years compared with just 1 year for males before seeking help for their symptoms. Now, the cause of PTSD can be different for everybody. Females may be more likely to experience high-impact trauma, such as sexual assault or abuse. They are also more likely to experience this trauma at a younger age. Research shows that trauma earlier in life can have more of an impact on an individual. I found this personally interesting, as many of you may not know that I was actually molested as a child on 2 separate occasions by 2 different neighbors from 2 different neighborhoods, which is just crazy. And I've shared about this publicly many times. In fact, I talked about it on my Instagram like many years back, but I don't typically talk about it a lot. However, because thankfully I am healed from it, and so to me, there's really no point in bringing things up like that don't affect me anymore. And there's really no reason to address it if it's been dealt with in the past. That said, I also have no issue speaking about it because, again, it doesn't really affect me mentally. Strangely, as I was doing more research into this connection between childhood trauma and gut bacteria, it all made more and more sense as to perhaps why I have dealt with such severe gut issues. I mean, I was thankfully breastfed. Thank you, Mom, by the way. So I know baby formula wasn't the culprit, which it can be for many, just FYI. I am also not saying my childhood trauma was the reason for my gut issues. Other factors like lifestyle, what I ate as a young adult, stress, breast implants, etc., I believe contributed as well. But my point is that there is some correlation, and perhaps you too may have experienced some trauma in your past that could, be a factor for your gut issues as well. And if you've never professionally dealt with it, it could be exacerbating your current gut issues today. Now, this is all something to just consider and take note of, as we all know that emotions do affect our digestion, and deep-rooted childhood trauma can truly impact our adult health. Now, I did briefly touch on certain causes of PTSD, but it's not just related to sexual assault or abuse. It could just be simple bullying as a kid, harassment or abuse. It could be racism. It could be an experience of violence, such as like a violent attack, terrorism, or military combat. Experiencing or witnessing a car accident can definitely contribute to that. Simple things like being in a job, such as the emergency service or armed forces, where just like an individual is constantly seeing or hearing distressing things, being a policeman, fireman, someone in the medical field, and that you're seeing just horrible things. Imagine being a policeman or fireman and being at the scene of a car accident and seeing someone, not to put horrible images in your mind, but, seeing people severely hurt, burned, and things like that. That could really cause some trauma. Another cause of PTSD, just surviving a natural disaster, experiencing a traumatic childbirth, losing someone close, just the death of a family or friend, even receiving life-threatening diagnosis can bring a PTSD effect and could be the cause. These are just things. Obviously, every single person is different, and each individual will have different causes, and things affect people differently. So these also, if you've experienced anything I've mentioned, it's not going to mean that you do have PTSD. Again, some people can experience them and be totally fine. That just goes to show how each person is unique in their own way. I personally think that certain factors that they may also play a role in the development of PTSD. These include aspects of the event itself, how it was handled after the fact, as well as genetic factors of the individual. I get asked all the time on my Instagram if you can take too much sodium, if that's like even a thing. And well, before I tell you the link between low sodium levels and stress, I also want to tell you that the reason I went into a coma back in 2018 was due to low sodium levels. In fact, when they checked my sodium levels in the emergency room, they were off the charts low. And this is just one reason I take electrolytes every single day. And yes, I even salt my smoothies and every single meal. But low sodium levels and electrolytes can also cause a number of other factors, including stress. Cortisol is a hormone released during times of stress that affects nearly every process, including our mental state in the body. Now, high cortisol, in fact, has been linked to depression, fatigue, and stress in both men and women. So, where does sodium come in? When someone is sodium deficient, their cortisol levels go way up. Now, that's bad news for your mood. This, again, is just one reason why we all need to make sure our sodium levels are at their peak. Adding electrolytes into your diet is a great way to replenish and rebalance your body, mind, and mood. However, most electrolyte drink mixes contain added gums, sugars, colors, and even added oils, among many other unnecessary ingredients. I am really picky about what goes into my body, so that's why I choose Element's raw, unflavored electrolyte mix. Element's unflavored version contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of salt, magnesium, and potassium. That's it. Just those 3 simple ingredients are in their raw, unflavored packs. And right now, Element is offering my listeners a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single serving packets free with any Element order. You must go to drinkelement.com/digest to get this offer. That's DRINKLMNT.com/digest. So how do you know if you have PTSD? So to receive a proper diagnosis, a person must experience symptoms for at least 1 month. Now, this is according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. Now, you must be experiencing the following, at least like avoidance symptoms, like at least one of the avoidance symptoms I previously mentioned, at least one re-experiencing system, at least 2 cognition and mood symptoms, and at least 2 arousal and reactivity symptoms. If you are experiencing symptoms of PTSD, please speak with a healthcare or mental health professional. And now there are treatments for PTSD, and these typically involve cognitive behavioral therapy, which is also referred to as CBT, prolonged exposure therapy, eye movement, and group therapy. Now, EMDR is something that I actually did. I can't even remember, so many years ago. They have EMDR machines, or you can just do tapping yourself or have someone tap on you, like on your knees or on your shoulders. Again, they have EMDR machines. I think I even have one myself. And so there's different ways and techniques. What truly helped me, and I mean, this was like when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old, what truly helped me was therapy. And I will say prayer, like prayer. The power of prayer is, well, so powerful. And having family around, talking it out with my mother, talking it out with my therapist, and just being in the Word and prayer. And you truly can be healed. And I personally, I even forget that things have happened to me when I was a kid. Thankfully, it's just completely out of my mind. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that happened. So, I just want to give some encouragement to anyone dealing with anything right now, that there is hope in healing and that you can be free from it. So, all this to say, like, I feel like the correlation though, still from just PTSD and gut issues and the gut microbiome, it's crazy how connected we truly are in the mind, body, and spirit, and how things can alter our physical being, and how our physical being can alter our mental state. And it just goes full circle. And unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword at sometimes. So anyways, just thought that this was interesting. Definitely some things to think about and look into if you are struggling with gut issues. And even if you're not struggling with gut issues, if you're having some PTSD issues and symptoms, deal with that, because who knows what else it's affecting in your life beyond gut issues. So anyways, that's what I have for you guys today on this Monday. I hope you enjoyed this bite of knowledge, and I will see you this coming Wednesday for an amazing interview. Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Resonant Media production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To email the show, message us at digestThisPod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.